Hey, Texas fans, I'm Lowell Galindo from Longhorn Network with Chris Del Conte, Director of Athletics and VP at the University of Texas. And this is a special day for Texas fans because, Chris, it is about time to announce that Vic Schaefer is the new head coach of the storied program that is Texas women's basketball. Before we hear from Coach Schaefer, let's talk about this process. First off, what led Texas to Vic Schaefer?
Well, I think the conversation really started in earnest on Friday when we made the decision to not to extend Karen's contract. And Karen asked and her staff, I can't thank them enough. They were tremendous for their 8 years that we were here. But at that point in time, I made a decision that we were not going to extend the contract. And we began to talk about what direction we wanted to go in. And I called Jody Conrad, talked to CP, and I talked to Kathy Harrison. But Coach Conrad said, what are you going to do? And I gave her what I was thinking, and she goes, you know what you need to do? You need to go to Mississippi State and get Vic Schaefer. And I said, let's talk about him. He's number one on my list. And she goes, she's number one on my list. I tried to hire him years ago. And we started talking stories about what Vic has done, what he's done. Not only what he did at A&M, and we led him to that national championship, and his acumen as a defensive specialist, but just as a coach and a recruiter. And then when he took this chance to go to Mississippi State, and he took that program from the doldrums all the way to the arguably top 2 or 3 programs in the country. Vic Schaefer and his staff did that. And we had that huge discussion, and CP and I and Kathy, we just coalesced around that. And Sean Eichhorst, who's been unbelievable during this process. We had these discussions, and we reached out and said, would there be interest? Called their AD on Friday. I said, Sean, send a plane out there right now. Called up Coach Schaefer. Hey, we got a plane that morning. We're going to hop on it. He brought his whole family. It was awesome. You know, he had Christopher Logan. He had Blair named out, not after Blair. His wife, Miss Holly. They get on the plane. They come in, and it was like, family's coming. When I saw him get in my truck, I said, okay, we got a shot. And we just spent the whole day talking about Texas basketball. And he knew everyone. He knew all of our recruits. He knew all of our history. He was well-versed in Texas basketball. And I was just like, this is the guy. But, you know, you can't let on too much excitement. You know, try to play hard to get. I was like, okay, just give him the contract right now. And by the end of the day, we coalesced around the contract. And when he left, we shook hands and said, we got a deal. And I waited 24 hours, long 24 hours, because it wasn't until Sunday that he said, okay, let's do this. But he's special as a human being. His family's special. And he's a winner. And I can't wait for him to get on our campus.
So, CDC, it's one thing to hear all those things from outside sources, people that you even trust, but it's completely different to see it in person. When did you know that Vic Schaefer was the guy?
What was interesting, I've been, you know, you always watch people's careers. In this business, they always say an AD has a drawer of 10 coaches, and that's actually true. You always have coaches that you have this coach of a wish list. Could you ever work with this person? And then you have your coach you can get, and then you have your old poop list. This is what happens on searches, right? And you always aim for the wish list, and he was always on that wish list for me because just what he had done, and you go, my gosh. I had a conversation years ago when I was at TCU. I was just so impressed with him as a person and who he is. And that's the first and foremost are they great people? He's an unbelievable human being, a great father. He has structure. He has discipline, everything that you'd want. And he's driven, so driven that I was like, this is a guy I want to be with. And he's going to inspire me and our entire coaching staff to do things that we want Texas to be. When we say that the winning traditions of the University of Texas are not trusted to the timid nor the weak, he's not weak. He understands it. And I knew when he started talking about our program within 5 minutes, and he knew the entire history, and I was like, okay. I was just trying not to get too excited. Temper my enthusiasm.
One more question before we bring in Coach Schaefer for the first time. I'd ask you about the expectations, but you've made it very clear what the expectations are for all your programs to perennially compete for conference titles, for national titles. With that said, how does Coach Schaefer's Texas ties help him accomplish those things?
Well, I say this, why you have those goals that you should win a national championship or compete for a national championship or conference championship at the University of Texas? Because we are the University of Texas. Every single team that we play against is coming after us. And when you're a program that's been hunted your entire existence, you have to have people that are used to being hunted. and you try to recruit to those people that actually know how to build a program from the bottom up and get student athletes that understand that your best effort is going to be put on that court every single day. So you should have aspirational goals that are so high. Doesn't mean we're going to achieve them every time, but you got to have them so high because that's the expectation at the University of Texas. And we should embrace that expectation. It may not happen every single year, but if you don't embrace that expectation, other people can talk about it. Other programs will say this is what, but they have no realistic opportunity of doing it. If you look at our spring sports, every one of our spring sports were in the top 5 in the country. That tells you they had that chance. They were ready. So when we looked at our women's basketball program, I wanted someone that not only tasted it, been there, but built it to sustain there. And we got the right person. I am just so thankful that Vic, Holly, Blair, and Christopher Logan have decided to come to the University of Texas.
CDC, congratulations on another can't-miss hire. Fantastic job.
Appreciate you. Hook 'em.
It is now my honor and privilege to introduce the new head coach of Texas women's basketball, Vic Schaefer. Coach Schaefer, welcome to Austin, Texas.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I want to thank Vice President and Director of Athletics, Chris Del Conte, and President Fenbus for the opportunity to be the head women's basketball coach at the University of Texas, a tradition-rich university and a women's basketball program that was at the forefront for so many years in the history of women's college basketball. But I also want to take this time to thank Mississippi State, to thank Dr. Mark Keenum, Scott Strickland, who hired me 8 years ago, my former AD, and current athletic director, John Cohen, for this opportunity here. To our fan base, the Bulldog family, for their love of my family, my staff, our program, my players here at Mississippi State. This has been a great 8 years, and it has been a tremendous state. So many wonderful people. The state of Mississippi has just been tremendous for us. To my student athletes, nothing has been harder than to know that we've had our last practice together, our last competition together, our last team meal, our last travel together. I will miss you guys tremendously and will love you forever. But now I'm excited to be returning home to the great state of Texas, a place where I've spent 45 years of my life, to a university that has so much tradition and history, both academically and athletically, and in particular in women's college basketball. My job now is to restore the program to the national prominence that it once had. And I'm excited and fired up about that opportunity.
Well, Coach Schaefer, congratulations on the job at the University of Texas. I know the Longhorn Nation is excited to have you part of this storied program. Let's go back to the process, because for what you did at Mississippi State, you really had opportunities about anywhere. What were the factors that did separate Texas from other opportunities that you did have?
Well, it's the University of Texas. It's my home state. I'm 65 miles from where both my mother and father are buried. It's a town of LaGrange, Texas, where I grew up as a young child on weekends at my grandmother's house. I'm 2.5 hours from my sister, who was actually my kindergarten teacher and my reading and spelling teacher from the 1st through the 8th grade. And it's a state that's tremendous in women's and girls high school basketball. And obviously I have a lot of familiarity with the university. And again, I know the history of this great institution and of this great program.
Well, Coach, I also know there's a lot of maroon in your closet. How do you make that transition from your ties with Texas A&M, going to school there, coaching there, Mississippi State as well? How do you make that transition, kind of removing some of that maroon to go to the burnt orange?
Well, how am I doing?
You're doing great. It's a good start. You found one.
Look, here's what I can tell you. There's not anybody that knows the eyes of Texas better than me. I've heard it plenty of times. But, you know, it's, again, I've always had great admiration and respect for the University of Texas, and especially in women's college basketball, knowing Coach Conrad, what she's done for our great game. I've been in this game now 35 years, 30 in the women's game, and obviously was following her at a very early and young, impressionable age as a young coach back in 1990 when I first got my opportunity to be a head coach in the women's game. You know, Jody and I, Coach Conrad and I have something in common. We both coached at Sam Houston State. Not many people might know that. And so it's just, you know, to know who they are now, who they were at one time and as a national prominence in women's college basketball, and to know that we can get them back there. That's a tremendous challenge. And I'm excited about that opportunity. Being on that campus Saturday really was invigorating, exciting, just to know that it just reconfirmed what I believe, because we believe in building programs and winning championships. That's what we've been about here at Mississippi State. We believed it when we came here. I'm not sure many people believe that, but my staff and I, my family, we believed it. And I absolutely believe that at the University of Texas. I believe we have the support staff there. And let me give you one other little tidbit. Growing up in that rivalry, as I did, and you made reference to, when my son was hurt in 2010, one person in particular reached out to me, and I had thousands of people reach out to me during that time when we almost lost Logan. But one person in particular stood out to me. And remember, at the time I was coaching at Texas A&M. But one person that reached out to me that really drew my attention to the University of Texas was Chris Plonsky. She sent me a very kind note, letting me know that they were thinking about me, my family, and my son at the University of Texas. That has always stuck with me, always. And if there was ever one thing that might have changed someone that was brainwashed at birth, that one thing really made an impact in my life. And of course, again, being in the women's game and knowing Coach Conrad and the impact she's had on our great game of basketball. But then to have that happen really impacted me tremendously. And when this opportunity came along, I mean, you just can't say no.
Well, as you said, the goal is to compete for championships on the conference and the national level. Tell us about your style, how you plan on getting there. What is the Vic Schaefer brand of Texas women's basketball going to be all about?
So let's go back to Jody's era. Those kids wore knee pads. They played extremely hard. They were tough, physical, and aggressive. And again, that's the impression that I took as a young coach. That's the kind of team I wanted. When I got to Arkansas in '97 from 2003, I got an up close and in-person view of how Pat Summitt's teams were tough, physical, and aggressive. That doesn't say anything about your skill set. But if somebody described your football team as that, if they described your basketball team, your baseball team, that doesn't say anything about how fast you run the 40. It doesn't say anything about how far your quarterback can throw it. It doesn't say anything about your pitcher on the mound. But if they described your teams as tough, physical, and aggressive, as a coach, you'd like that. And that's my teams. We're going to pick up full court. Everybody knows that. We're 94 feet of no fun. we really embrace that. That's my style. That's our coaches, my coaching staff. That's how we teach the game. We're a fundamental team. You're going to come to practice every day and see the fundamentals being taught daily for the first 45 minutes to an hour of practice, because that's what we believe in. But I also believe that's how our point guards have led the country or been in the top 10 in the country in assist to turnover ratio. You know, you can't score if you're giving the other team the basketball and turning the ball over. And so for us, that's what's really been good for us. We hang our hat on that. But here's the other thing. I think we've done a great job of also evolving with the game. The game has gone to a more offensive game. I think we were number 2 in the country 2 or 3 years ago on offense. Last year's team might have been my best team at 33-3, and we didn't get to the Final Four. We had to go play Oregon, out in Oregon in the Elite Eight, and didn't get out of the Elite Eight. That team was number 1 in the country in point differential. 28 points a game was our point differential. In conference, in the Southeastern Conference, it was 20-something. An incredible stat. So offensively, I think we've learned to adjust, and yet at the end of the day, 60's the number. We always want to hold our opponent to 60 or less, because that's always going to give you a chance to win every night. And so that's been our philosophy. I think it's a philosophy that's what's put people in the stands. People are going to know they're going to come watch a team that plays extremely hard, that's tough, that's physical and aggressive. They're going to sit there with their son or daughter and go, you know what, I want you to play like that young lady. And I think that's where we've been able to build our brand and build our fan base. People enjoy and they can identify with hardworking kids that play the game the right way. We respect the game. We honor the game. And I think that's how we've been able to build our fan base from 200, 300, 400 people where you had to whisper on press row or everybody could hear what you were saying to 9,000, 10,000 a night, setting records that have never been set, having the all-time record in the history of the Humphrey Coliseum at 10,726. That's what excites me about being at the University of Texas, to see the Drum and then the Moody Center full. They got to roll up those garage doors and have 15,000 seats available when the University of Texas women's basketball team plays, and that they're coming to see our team play, not who we're playing. They're coming to see the Texas women's basketball team play. That's what we're excited about.
Let's give a shout out to your daughter, Blair. She was a fantastic player for you at Mississippi State, helped you set up all the technology to get this done today. But what really strikes me is you mentioned your most recent run to the Final Four that ended with some disappointment. And I believe it was during that run where you had very emotional comments about Blair, her career, and how you coached her and what she meant to the program. And I think it really summed up how you treat players. If you can treat your own daughter a certain way and it's fair for everybody, it shows you how you approach treating players. What do you recall the most about the process she went through and what she proved to you as a player?
Well, she certainly had some of the same growing pains any freshman would have, playing in a tremendous conference against the best in the country. And each year, her freshman year, her sophomore year, her playing time grew, but still she was trying to, again, improve, get better, and understand the importance of certain things that are in our program: taking care of the ball, not turning it over, shot selection, being able to defend. These are all things that are critical if you're going to play for me. And just like any young player, she had a hard time with that. The defensive piece was a big challenge for her. And so, we went through a phase after her sophomore year. It's been noted and published. She came home one day to my wife and said, I think I want to talk about transferring. And my wife called me and I came home, and you have to know the dynamics of our house. We would have dinner every Monday night. My son, Logan, would come home from school. He went to school here at State, and Blair, and we would always talk in third party. Hey, how was the coach yesterday? How was the game? How was he at halftime? And we would really talk and have a great time with that, but we never brought that home. It was always father-daughter at home, father-son at home. And that worked for us. When we were in school, on campus, at practice, it was coach, player. And so when I came home that day and she told me, I want to talk about transfer. And I said, well, that's great. Have you talked to the coach? And, she kind of looked at me and I said, you need to talk to the coach. And I know the coach isn't here in the house right now. So we're going to talk about this. We'll go to the office. Again, not fair to her, but I probably was harder on her than anybody I've ever coached. But as you know, the scrutiny and the eyes are all on you, and they were all on her. And I give her so much credit because she never whimpered. She never wavered. And so we did. We had that conversation, and I told her, hey, nobody wants to play you more than me. Trust me. But I can't play you at the expense of my team. Make me play you. She went to work that summer. In one short period of time, she went from a sophomore looking at transfer into a junior that was critical coming off the bench for us to, in the NCAA tournament, she became a starter. She was the most valuable player of our regional. And from there, just as a senior, then plays more minutes than anybody on the team, averaged 10 points a game, and becomes an all-defensive player in the Southeastern Conference.
Tough
Wow.
to do.
And again, give the kid all the credit. She just went to work. My staff worked with her diligently. She just got all in. And that's a great example of a kid that bought in, got in, understood, didn't make excuses, and went to work. I couldn't be prouder of her. And she's going to be a great coach.
Some of that Schaefer family toughness that's getting Texas fans very excited about the Vic Schaefer era in Austin. Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time. Congratulations on the job. You do look good in burnt orange. And I know you have a little tradition, the way you usually wrap up things like this. So for the first time, you'll put a Texas spin on it. Take it away.
Hey, thanks again for your time today. Appreciate everything you do for the University of Texas. Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.